What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about something that doesn't get talked about too often, even though it probably should, and that topic is your fuel injectors. Specifically, today we are going to be doing a flow test on the fuel injectors on this 2014 SeaDoo RXPX, and then of course we're also going to be cleaning them if necessary. So I just want to give a kind of some context as to why this is important. So obviously the fuel injectors are what's spraying fuel into your engine. On a SeaDoo, it uses port side fuel injection instead of direct injection, which is what a lot of cars today use. And essentially what that means is we are spraying fuel in the intake manifold just behind the intake valves. So it's spraying fuel in, it's getting mixed with the air, and then it gets sucked into or pressurized into the combustion chamber. For us here, it's kind of a plus because it means the intake valves are always getting clean, but more specifically, the injectors don't get as dirty on the spray pattern on the spray side because there's no combustion byproduct. But that does not mean that they cannot get dirty. And this is important because if you have injectors that are not firing correctly, or they're not spraying as much as the other injectors can, that can lead to a hot condition or a lean condition in that specific cylinder, which can cause problems like premature exhaust valve failure. You burn the sides of the exhaust valve. You can cause damage to the piston top. You can cause pitting on the piston. You can cause premature piston ring failure, but more catastrophically, that can lead to conditions like knock and detonation in that specific cylinder, which of course just puts stress on everything. So for those of you that do any kind of tuning or engine work, you know the term AFR, air fuel ratio. And when engines are getting calibrated and stuff from the factory, they are measuring the O2 stream coming out of the exhaust universally. So they're measuring the average between all three cylinders. A lot of aftermarket tuners do the same thing, which is fine. But, you know, like I said, if we have one injector that's not firing correctly, cylinder 1 and 2 are flowing perfectly fine, but cylinder 3 is not flowing correctly, that can cause a lean condition, and then it won't necessarily trigger a problem with the overall ski, but we're still going to be causing issues. So basically what I'm getting at is, even if your ski is perfectly fine, you're not getting any fault codes, you don't really notice any difference in performance, you may still have dirty injectors or an injector issue that needs to be addressed. I've done quite a few injector services over the years, and it's always shocking to find which injectors actually have problems and which ones do not. I've had countless skis come in for just basic work, cleanups, routine service, things like that. And then I do injector testing and find that they are quite out of spec. So if you have a SeaDoo that's, you know, again, this is a 2014 with 150 hours, but if you have a SeaDoo that's higher in hours, it's a older ski, or even a newer one that's been sitting for some time, this may be something you want to do. I highly recommend it for the DIYers. If you check around, people mention having your injectors flow tested. This is essentially what they're referring to. In the past, generally the recommended way to do it is to remove your injectors and mail them out to a service that will do it for you. But you know, I'm going to show you today how you can do it yourself. So I'm just going to explain what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and then of course we'll get into the process. So it's actually going to be a lot easier than you think. We're just going to remove the fuel injectors. There's only 2 bolts holding it in. I'll show you how to do that. We're going to take the fuel injectors, we're going to bring it over to our machine here, and for those of you that are interested, this is the Mr CarTool V308 fuel injector tester and cleaner. Now I cannot recommend Mr CarTool tools enough. I mean, this is just to kind of give you a backstory. If you ever had your injectors flow tested, you know, you send them out to a company and they put them on a very expensive industrial test machine. It could be $5,000, $10,000. and they do this, basically what this machine is going to be doing for you. Or if you go online and you pick up a injector tester, it's like a little $50 device, handheld device, clips onto your injector, you send 12 volts through it, and then you have to spray a cleaning fluid through it. This is the happy medium. I believe this thing is like $270 or something. I forget what I paid. But you are getting a flow test. You have multiple test ranges. You can test the injectors at idle, at high RPM, but you also have the ability to clean them with the ultrasonic cleaner. So you're getting basically two separate parts, or two separate tools in one unit. And you know, if you're the kind of person that's doing DIY work, honestly, I consider this thing an essential. So I'll get more into that in a minute, but first things first, let's go ahead and remove the fuel injectors on here. Now, I do have a couple videos showing how to remove the fuel injectors, so I won't go into too much detail, but I will show you what we're doing here. So we have two I believe these are E8s, inverted Torx bolts. It's either E8 or E10. I forget which one. I will show you though. So we're going to remove this screw here, this one here, and then that's it. The fuel rail is completely loose. We can pull it up out of the intake manifold, which is where the injectors pass through. We have our electrical connections. Very simple, just one clip, they pull right out. This one is under the ECU, so I'll wait a second. But we don't need to remove any of the zip ties or anything. We are not fully removing the fuel rail. We just need to kind of get it up enough that we can pull the injectors out. And the only thing that's holding the injectors is the clips on the back side that just pop right off. So I'm gonna go ahead and stage the camera so you can see what I'm doing, and then we'll get these things out. Okay, it is a E8 inverted Torx bit, so we'll go ahead, take off our fuel rail screws. Okay, now the fuel rail is loose, so I'm gonna go ahead and just pull up on it slightly just to pull the injectors out. Do not do this aggressively, just pull it gently, like that. The injectors are loose. And now we have the metal tabs, so I'll pull this one off just so you can see what it looks like, the retainers, and you can see it's just this guy here. So this kind of squeezes the injector to the fuel rail, just pops right off, and then the injectors are loose. Okay, and then the next step is to just remove the injectors. I was going to say that, you know, there's going to be fuel pressure in the fuel rail, so just make sure you put a towel down, but of course the injector popped out and shot all the fuel out anyway, so we'll just do this. So this is our first injector from cylinder 1. We have cylinder 2, and then cylinder 3. Here are all 3 injectors. Now, right off the bat, I noticed that one of these is slightly different. You can see this one has the white clamp on it. I don't know if that means it's an aftermarket one or just a newer generation or anything. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, we'll find out if it's correct or not once we put it in the flow test. So basically what I'm going to do here is first I'm going to flow test these first. So we're going to get it connected to our manifold here. We're going to put it on a test, and then we're going to see just how much each injector is spraying in terms of fluid, and then we'll be able to get a baseline and see if any one of these is off relative to each other. Now, if you really wanted to get into the science of it, you can look out, or you can do some math and find out how much these should flow over a period over a minute based on fuel pressure, and all that kinds of stuff. I'm not going to get to that detailed. I'm just going to be doing a test to see how they compare to each other. So basically, if 2 injectors are filling, we'll say 80 cc's, and this one is flowing to 60 cc's or milliliters, then we know something is wrong. There is a correction value. I believe it's like as long as the injectors are within 5% of each other, that means they are good to go. So we'll keep that in mind. So this tool, I'll basically explain how this tool works in case any of you guys want to pick up one of your own. This is a 4 injector testing, or it's capable of testing 4 injectors. SeaDoos are obviously 3-cylinder, so we only need to be able to test 3. So I just have a plug on our 4th port here. But the front half of the machine is our flow test, and it is very, very easy to use. So all we need to do is lift our fuel rail. We'll unthread it. I'll put it on camera so you can see. We're going to put the injector in, get it set so it's going to spray into the test tube, and then you'll see we have our electrical connections here, and this is going to plug right into the injector and do our pulsing. So a lot of talk. I'm going to go ahead and get it set up on the tool here. That way you can see what we're going to be doing. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and press each injector in like so. We'll leave it so that the electrical connection side is facing frontwards so it's easy to get to. And then we'll just line these up into our cylinders. And now this threaded rod, we'll just go ahead and thread into place. We'll get a little bit of a grip there. And then we just twist the black knob to pull the fuel rail in. That way the injectors are held in place. The next thing we need to do is go ahead and connect our harness. Now, for injectors, it doesn't matter which way this goes. You can be, up, down, but it doesn't matter. Because polarity does not matter. You also don't need to worry about which one of these connections goes where, because it's going to be pulsing the injectors all at the same time. So we'll go ahead and get these connected. Now all of the SeaDoo injectors are the same, so it doesn't matter if you have a 2007 ski or a 2025 ski. They will all kind of test and connect the same exact way. So let me go ahead and get staged over here, and I'll show you what we're going to be doing next. Okay, so for the flow test, in terms of liquid, we are going to be using some 99% isopropyl alcohol. You do not want to use anything that is flammable. You certainly do not want to be testing with gas. You also don't want to use something like water that can cause corrosion or whatever on your injectors. There is injector testing fluid, but it is very, very, very expensive. It's like $50 or $60 per liter. It's unnecessary. Isopropyl alcohol, mineral spirits, things like that, they all perform perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and turn on our machine. We'll wait for this to turn on. And now we have our drain valve closed here. So we have basically once the test is over, we lift this and all the fluid will go back into the tank. In this case, the rubbing alcohol. With this closed, it'll fill up. Now if you look on the front side of the screen here, you can see we have plenty of options to choose from. On the right hand side, you see we have the first option that comes up when you turn it on is ultrasonic cleaning. We'll get to that next. But we have the idle test, medium speed test, high speed test, acceleration test, and then we have like leak checking and things like that. Now this will all determine how fast the pulsing is on your injectors, and it's mimicking engine RPM. So when you are sitting at idle, obviously your ECU is only calling for far less frequent activation of your injector, and then as you accelerate, they're going to be firing far more frequently. So that's basically what each one of these tests is indicating. Now the reason they have this, and they don't just have a standard test that's flat across the board, is because some injectors will fire perfectly fine at, say, high speed, but at low speed they may fire more erratically. So this gives you the ability to mimic every possible engine running scenario to give a more accurate test. Now in this case, the injectors are running fine, so we're not trying to narrow down a specific problem. We just want to do a flow test and see how they are flowing. So I'm going to go down to our high speed test, which in this case is number 4, and you'll see that we also changed some variables over here on the left. Now I'm not going to change anything here. The pulse width adjustment is basically just giving you the control of how long the injectors are open for. So basically, I'm not sure what the metric is here. It's most likely in milliseconds, but it says that this is going to be the injector for each cycle is only going to be open for 2 milliseconds. Your ECU will determine that. It'll change all the time. In this case, for testing, we do not need to change anything there. Working time is how long we want the test to run for. 1 minute may be too much. We'll see just how much we fill up, so I can always stop the test if needed. And of course, we also have fuel pressure here. Now, I don't remember what the fuel pressure, the rated fuel pressure is for the ECU or for the SeaDoo. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's generally above 40 pounds, 40 psi, we're okay. So we just don't want to do it when it's, you know, around 5 psi or something, because then it's not going to mimic a true operating environment. So I'm going to leave this stock. I never really need to adjust this, and we'll see what it does. But other than that, that's all we need to do. So really the only setting we changed is for the fuel injector testing. We went down to number 4, which is our high-speed test, and that's it. So I'm going to stage the camera. We'll click play and we'll see what happens. All right, let's give it a shot. All right, take a look at that. So it is actually a very good thing that we ran this test, because you can see injectors 2 and 3 are basically within 5% of each other, 90 milliliters over the course of 1 minute. But cylinder 1 is just under 70 milliliters. So this one was not firing as much as it should. And I don't know if that's because there's something mechanically wrong with the injector, or if it's because it's dirty. But either way, like I said, this SeaDoo was running perfectly fine. There was no problems at all. There was no performance issues. There was no fault codes. There was nothing that would give you an indication that one of the injectors was not firing as much as it should. But you can see that is a substantial difference in the amount of fluid that it pumped. So, you know, if we ran it like that for extended periods of time, the cylinder that injector was in would experience advanced wear. We could scorch the tips of the ring of the exhaust valve. We can cause more pitting on the piston cup. The piston rings could experience more wear. In general, it's just going to run a little bit hotter. We can get knock, detonation. That's what causes excessive wear on connecting rod, main bearings, things like that. So, you know, this is, if anything, this is a good reason why at some point you should have your injectors flow tested. Highly recommend getting yourself a flow tester if you are doing all of the work yourself, or if you try to do the work yourself. This is a very, very easy tool to use, and it's extremely affordable for what you are getting, especially when, you know, just considering having your injectors professionally cleaned is probably going to cost you between $50 to $100 per injector, not even including the shipping costs and all that stuff anyway. So basically, for the same exact cost, you can have a machine that you can use whenever you want. So, all right, so we know 90 milliliters on 2 and 3, 70 or just under 70 on injector 1. I'm probably going to put some tape on here just so I can track that cylinder, that injector. But let's go ahead and drain the fluid back into the tank. And of course, what we're going to do now is clean these injectors, and we'll see if there's any difference. If there is a difference, then we know the problem was just a buildup of carbon or, you know, dirty fuel getting stuck on the backside. But if it doesn't make a difference, then we know that there's something mechanically wrong with that injector. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the injectors from the fuel rail. We're going to keep the electrical connections on because when we put it into the ultrasonic bath, we are going to fire the injectors as well. Basically just open the inside so that the ultrasonic has an effect on that as well. Okay, so before I put the injectors in the ultrasonic bath, I'm going to remove the lower O-ring. This is the side that goes into the intake manifold. The reason I'm going to do that is because ultrasonic cleaning is a fantastic way of breaking off carbon deposits and things like that. But it can etch away at materials over extended periods. So just to prevent any kind of damage to the O-rings, I'm just going to take them off. Generally, if you're only doing cleaning for 2-3 minutes or whatever, it's not going to be a big deal. But, you know, these O-rings are a crucial part of the injector, so I'm going to remove those with the pick real quick just to get them out. Each of the O-rings is off, and by the way, guys, when you take them off, or if you ever take them off, just give them a feel and see how they are doing. These should be somewhat soft and rigid at the same time, but if they feel like they're stiff or brittle, you absolutely want to replace these. Remember, your fuel system is pressurized, and these O-rings are basically the only thing that's keeping fuel in the system. And if you leak fuel on a SeaDoo, that could be a disaster. You know, if you have a fuel system leak on a car, you know, that can cause a fire, but worst case scenario, it just goes up in flames, you pull over, you get out of the car, you're fine. But on a SeaDoo, you have to remember, this entire thing is covered. So you have an enclosed environment. And what happens when you have an enclosed environment with a fuel leak? This thing becomes a bomb, right? If you've ever seen videos of skis exploding on the water, I'll probably reference a video so you can see. That's what happens when there's a fuel leak. So that's why the instruction manual, that's why all the warning videos, sometimes even on warning stickers, it'll tell you before you go out to ride for the day, you want to lift the seat, give this thing a smell, and see if you have strong odors of fuel, because that can indicate that there's a fuel leak. And I'll show you how to do a fuel leak test at the end. But you know, that's 100% something you want to keep an eye on, and that's, I guess, another reason why doing a injector service once in a while is a recommended thing to do. So another neat thing that the Mr. CarTool has is a heated ultrasonic bath. Now, for those of you that do ultrasonic cleanings, you know that the heating element greatly increases the cleaning efficiency. So I have that on. It's been warming up for about 5 minutes now, but we are going to go ahead and put the injectors in our test basin here. Now, we're not going to submerge the entire injector. We could if we wanted to, but the only part I'm really concerned about is the firing thing on the bottom. So I'm not sure how well the GoPro picks it up, but you can see those very, very, very small holes. That's where the fuel is coming out of. So we're going to go ahead and put just the bottom half of the injector into the cleaning basin. We'll do all three. And now the reason we're keeping these connected electrically is because we want the inside of the injector to open and close as the ultrasonic bath is going. That way we can we're basically cleaning as much as we can, because if the injectors were just closed as we're doing the ultrasonic cleaning, we're really only cleaning the outside and not the inside where the fuel is being ejected from. So basically what we're going to do here, I'll show you on this screen. We are going to go to the ultrasonic cleaning section, and just for this test or for this cleaning, we're going to run it for 3 minutes. If your injectors are really, really dirty, you can increase the time, or you could do less time. We're just going to do 3 minutes, which is the recommended, or basically it's the default setting here. And then we'll just hit play. That's going to pulse our injectors, and then on the right hand side we're going to clean or turn on the cleaning switch, which is the ultrasonic. Now, I don't know how well the GoPro is going to pick it up, because ultrasonic does mess with microphones, but I'm going to see if I can try to show you some dirt coming off. You may not be able to see it because the simple green, which I'm using, is pretty dark. For cleaning, by the way, you can use pretty much anything. A lot of people use simple green. Again, for this, you do not want to use something that's flammable. Absolutely do not put gasoline in there. But you also don't want to use water. You don't want to use anything that's acidic or that can cause problems with the plastic injectors. Simple green is a very safe bet. A lot of people use that. I've been using it for a while. It works pretty great. So let's go ahead and hit play. You can hear the injectors clicking, and then we'll turn on our ultrasonic. Alright, so I know the GoPro doesn't pick this up, but there's definitely some debris in there. I don't know if it was just debris on the outside of the injector that came off, or if it's debris from the inside, but we did a 3-minute ultrasonic bath. So next step is to just remove the injectors from the cleaning station. We're going to put them back onto the test fuel rail, and then we'll just do another flow test and see how it does. Injectors are back. We can go ahead and go back to test number 4, our high-speed test, and let's run it and see what happens. All right, and there you see it. So this fixed it. So I believe this was the injector. I just looked at the number plate on the side. There was a lot less, and you can see we're pretty much even across the board. So we're at just under 90, and just under 90 milliliters. So that cleaned it. The debris that we see in there was definitely clogging the injector, either on the bottom side or on the top side. And there we go. Does not get any easier than that. So all I'm going to do now is go ahead and remove our injectors. Before I put them back in the ski, I'm going to spray some lubricant on the O-rings before we push them back into place, just so they don't get pinched. But we'll bring these back over to the SeaDoo and go ahead and put them back into the fuel rail. So installation, of course, is just the opposite of taking them out. So we're just going to push this into the fuel rail. We're going to use our metal retainer clip to clip these into the fuel rail. And then we're just going to, once we get all three in, we'll push the fuel rail into the manifold where the injector heads will sit, and then we'll just connect the electrical harness. I do want to mention, when you are putting the injector in place on both the fuel rail side and the injector side, you want to take care not to pinch or damage the O-rings. You know, like I said, if one of these O-rings leaks, if it has even the slightest bit of damage, pressurized fuel will shoot out and you can cause problems. So I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick, and then I'll show you what we need to do next. Next, we just need to pressurize the fuel system, essentially, and make sure there is no leaks. So the way the SeaDoo works, and that's pretty much the same for every fuel injected vehicle, is once you wake the ski up, you do not need to crank it or try to start it. You press the start button to wake up the electronics with the key in. The fuel system will prime. You'll hear the fuel pump kick on, and that will pressurize the fuel rail. It's not going to cause the injectors to fire, but it will put pressure into the fuel rail. So we are just going to put the key in, tap the wake button. I can hear the fuel pump, and okay, it just built up pressure and we have no leaks. If there was a leak, you would see some spraying out at the top, basically where those O-rings are, but in this case we are good to go. So go ahead and remove the key, put that away. That's all there is to it. I did this entire thing in, I would say, 15 minutes, and that includes me recording as well. So if you were doing this on your own, you can honestly do this entire thing in 10 minutes, including the test time. Guys, I cannot recommend the Mr. CarTool injector cleaner tester enough. If you guys are interested, I will of course link it in your description. This is the V308 model. If you have any questions, you can also reach out to Mr. CarTool on Amazon or through their website. They're incredibly responsive. You can even send them pictures of your fuel injectors. They'll make sure that you are going to be receiving the correct one. And of course, they also send you with a bunch of adapters and things because, you know, not all injector faces are the same. I use this for my truck, and I don't remember which one that was. I think it was the bigger ones, but basically you can use this for more than just your SeaDoo. They also give you some wire adapters as well, because not all fuel injectors use the same connections. In terms of SeaDoo, they do. Like I said, for the past 20 years, they've been pretty much been the same injectors. But guys, I cannot recommend this enough. I mean, this $270, and we found that there was a problem with one of the fuel injectors on here. Again, no problem, no fault code, no impact on performance, but now I know for a fact that one injector was not firing the way that it should have. Which means that cylinder was running hotter than the others. Now the ski has 150 hours. I don't know how long it's been running like that. I hope it hasn't been too long, but you know, just like I mentioned earlier in the video, anytime you have a lean condition in a combustion chamber, that's what leads to premature wear on your exhaust valves. If someone ever says you have a burnt exhaust valve, that's a pretty good indication that may have been what happened. You have burned piston rings, burned piston top, pitting. You have counts of knock, detonation, things like that. They can all be a result of an injector that's not firing correctly. So, this test has already more than paid for itself, because if you experience any one of those conditions, obviously over time, if you have valve damage or piston ring damage, even knock damage where you can affect your crank and things like that, that is a significant chunk of change to fix. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. If You know, if you guys decide to pick up a machine for yourself and you're not sure how to use it, just leave a comment or whatever, and I will be happy to get back to you. But that's it for this video. Of course, stay tuned if you're interested in the RX-PX project. I will be posting a video shortly on the intercooler replacement, which I just finished up, but I wanted to get this injector test done because I'm kind of just going through the engine as I do other things. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, let me know.